turning the page into your 60s can be it's a fun time, but also a contemplative time as you're probably getting closer to retirement. Maybe you're already retired or thinking about retiring here very shortly. Or maybe you just want to keep working forever. Hey, more power to you. If you enjoy what you're doing, keep doing it. Um, but nonetheless, there are several things to be thinking about as you're into your early 60s and thinking about making that transition into retirement. So when I think about that, I've worked with a lot of these types of clients, and so there are four I's that I like to go over when we're talking about at this age in particular, your early 60s, but really before 65 time frame. And so the first one is your income. Uh, Figuring out the income plan is one of the most pivotal decisions that you're going to make as you make that transition into retirement, and feeling good and confident about that income plan. There are several components to that income plan. Generally, it's going to be your Social Security, and the timing around when are you going to take that? Are you going to take it early? Are you going to take it at full retirement age? Or are you going to take it later at 70? There's pros and cons to each of those approaches. If you have a pension, when are you going to claim the pension, and how much is that? And what are the pension options as well associated with that? Are you going to choose just for your own life, for a certain period for a benefit, or a joint life type of pension? So there are options there. If you work at Disney, there's several options when it comes to the Disney pension as far as choosing income options for that. And then the third component of your income plan oftentimes is your savings or your investments, and and how are those going to generate income for you? Oftentimes, there's three main approaches when it comes to generating income from your portfolio. There is the bucketed approach where you have kind of different buckets of money for different time frames: a short term, a medium term, a long term. There's also the interest approach where you just invest everything into income producing investments. That really was not that great of a plan 5 years ago in the 20 teens, but now 2023 interest rates have come up a lot, and so that's a viable potential option to consider. Um, but it's basically investing your money where your principal stays intact for the most part, but then you're just the investments are kicking off enough income interest to cover your income needs. The third approach, general broad category approach, is a total return approach, or an endowment approach. That's where you basically have all of your money invested in a broadly diversified portfolio, and you're making more dynamic decisions around taking out income. Sometimes it's interest, sometimes it's capital gains, and variations there. And so there's pros and cons to each of those strategies, but understanding what your income approach is going to be in relation to your other sources of income is pivotal. The second I is insurances. The main insurance that most folks in their early 60s are worried about is really healthcare related. Healthcare insurance in particular is very worrisome because it can be very expensive, and it's somewhat of an unknown, because if you work for a company, like, say, for instance, you work for Disney your whole life, you're used to having the company insurance plan, but then once you retire, you no longer have the company insurance plan, so you have a lot more decisions to make. There are several considerations. There are private plans that you can get before Medicare age, but those costs vary and can end up being very expensive, upwards of $2,000, $3,000 a month in cost. And so you really want to spend some time evaluating what type of insurance you're going to be on. You certainly will have access to, if you work at a company like Disney, you'll have access to COBRA insurance, but that doesn't last forever, potentially, especially if you retire really in your early 60s, 60, 61. That's not going to cover you the all the way to Medicare. So looking at your insurance options, there's also the possibility to qualify for Obamacare, or Affordable Care Act premium credits on your premiums, depending on your income level, and so that kind of ties into the first step there. But there are other options too that I see people use that are less expensive but come with their own risks. as well. And then you transition at 65 into Medicare. And Medicare, there's really two parts of Medicare. There's Medicare, traditional Medicare, and then there's your Advantage plans, which are a little bit more akin to kind of a group plan rather than a Medicare plan. Traditional Medicare is covered everywhere in the U.S., but there are some gaps, so you have to buy additional parts of Medicare to get a comprehensive coverage. An Advantage plan generally covers most things, but it's only really tied to a local area for the most part, and so there's some risks there as well. So uh, understanding your insurance options is really a big part of that transition into retirement. The third I is your investment strategy, and of course this ties into number one as well, depending on how much income and what type of income approach you're going to take. But your investment strategy is going to be a big part of that. Some of it's going to be based on income, but also just longer term goals too, because you want your income to last not only now but down the road, including potentially aging costs as well, preparing for that time where you maybe need more help around the house, or you may be unable to make financial decisions, things of that nature. So you want your investments not only to be there for you now, but there down the road as well. And of course, you maybe want to leave something for your kids or maybe a charity you care about. So when it comes to investment decisions, it really ties into, how much income do you need, what's the taxation of those different types of assets, um, and how much risk are you willing or comfortable taking, or how much risk do you need to take or want to take, and that impacts your investment decisions. So generally, you can go from very conservative to very aggressive and everything in between, and maybe a mixture might be the right idea. But the third step is identifying what's the right investment approach and monitoring that on an ongoing basis as the market changes and as your own life changes. The fourth I are interests. So as you're dialing down into this about to retire stage, research shows and experience shows that we need something to wake up for in the morning. It's pivotal for us to have some interest that we can pursue, not only from a hobby standpoint, but also from a relational standpoint. And relationships are pivotal to success in retirement, and oftentimes that's one of the biggest things that's missed whenever you retire, are those relationships with friends and work colleagues that you've spent your life getting to know. And so um, having a clear plan of action for your interests and keep your mind ready and sharp is pivotal when it comes to making that transition into retirement.